Welcome to Dreamy Tales English. I am David. Tonight, we have a special story for you. It's called The Tea House at the End of the Rain Alley. It was a rainy afternoon in Hangzhou. The kind of rain that falls slowly and quietly, like a whisper from the sky. May had just opened her small tea house at the end of a narrow alley in the old part of the city. May was 32 years old. She had inherited the tea house from her grandfather, who had run it for 50 years. He taught her everything: how to choose the tea leaves, how to control the heat of the stove, how to pour the water so the leaves would dance in the cup. The tea house was small, no more than 8 tables. The walls were made of dark wood, and paper lanterns hung from the ceiling. On the back wall, there was a large window that looked out onto a bamboo garden. When the rain fell, the bamboo leaves made the softest sound, like tiny drums beating in the distance. On this particular afternoon, the tea house was empty. May was wiping down the tables, humming an old tune her grandfather used to sing. The smell of Longjing tea filled the air, fresh, green, and slightly sweet. The door creaked open. A man stepped inside. He was wearing a dark raincoat, and water dripped from the hem onto the wooden floor. He carried a leather satchel that looked heavy. His hair was dark and wet, and his face was pale from the long walk in the rain. "Welcome," May said. "Would you like some tea?" The man looked around. His eyes took in the wooden walls, the paper lanterns, the bamboo garden outside the window. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he nodded slowly. "Yes, please. Tea would be very nice." May gestured to the table nearest the window. "Please sit here. You can watch the rain on the bamboo." The man sat down and set his satchel on the floor beside him. He was breathing heavily, as if he had walked a very long distance. May went to the back room and prepared a pot of tea. She chose a special blend, not Longjing this time, but a white tea called Silver Needle. It was delicate and subtle, like the rain outside. She placed the teapot and 2 cups on a tray and carried it to the man's table. "This is Silver Needle," she said. "It's one of the finest teas in China. Would you like to try it?" The man looked at the teapot with interest. "I've heard of it, but I've never tasted it." "Thank you." May poured the tea. The liquid was pale gold, almost clear. She pushed 1 cup toward the man and kept the other for herself. The man lifted the cup to his nose and inhaled deeply. "It smells peaceful," he said. "May schmoiled." Tea has a way of doing that, especially on a rainy day. They both took a sip. The man closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he looked different, calmer, softer, as if the tea had reached somewhere deep inside him. "That was extraordinary," he said quietly. "I don't think I've ever tasted anything like it." May sat across from him, cradling her cup in her hands. "My grandfather taught me everything I know about tea. He said that tea is not just a drink. It's a way to slow down, to be present, to connect with yourself and with the people around you." The man stirred his tea gently with a wooden spoon. "I needed that today," he said. "More than I realized. Would you like to talk about it?" May asked. The man hesitated, then nodded. "My name is Julian. I'm from London." May, I'm glad you found your way here." Julian looked down at his hands. "I've been traveling for 6 months. I left London without telling anyone why. I needed to get away. From the noise, from the pressure, from everything that felt wrong." He paused. The rain continued to fall outside. Inside the tea house, the paper lanterns cast a warm golden glow. "I've been to many places," Julian continued. "Paris, Tokyo, Bangkok, Delhi. Beautiful cities, wonderful food, incredible sights. But none of it made me feel. I don't know. None of it made me feel still." May listened without interrupting. She had learned from her grandfather that silence was often more important than words. Then I came to Hangzhou, Julian said, 3 days ago. And something about this city, it feels different. The West Lake, the tea plantations, the old alleys. Everything moves at a different pace here. Slower, deeper. He picked up his cup and looked at the pale gold liquid. And then I found this alley, in your tea house. Maybe it wasn't an accident. May tilted her head slightly. My grandfather used to say that people find the places they need, not the places they want. He believed that the universe has a way of guiding you. Julian smiled faintly. That's a beautiful belief. It's not just a belief, May said. It's what I've seen. People come to this tea house when they're lost, when they're sad, when they need a moment of peace. And they always leave feeling a little lighter. Julian was quiet for a long time. He watched the rain slide down the window pane. He watched the bamboo sway in the wind. He watched the steam rise from his tea. You know, he said finally, in London, I was an architect. I designed buildings, tall office towers, modern apartments. But I hated it. I hated the way everything was about money and speed and competition. I never felt proud of anything I built. What do you want to do? May asked gently. I don't know, Julian said. And for the first time since he had walked into the tea house, his voice sounded honest. Truly honest. I think I want to build things that make people feel something. Not just buildings. Something more meaningful. Maybe gardens. Maybe small spaces like this tea house where people can come to breathe. May nodded slowly. That's a good place to start. Not knowing what you want, but knowing what you don't want anymore. That's progress. Julian laughed softly. You make it sound simple. It isn't simple, May said, but it's honest. And honesty is the most important thing in the world. She stood up and went to a shelf behind the counter. She returned with a small wrapped package. My grandfather used to grow tea in this garden, she said, pointing to the bamboo through the window. Behind the bamboo, there are tea bushes, old ones. Some of them are over 100 years old. She placed the package on the table. This is tea from those bushes. A gift. For you. Julian stared at the package. For me? But I just met you. My grandfather would say that's the perfect reason, May said with a smile. Strangers are just friends you haven't shared tea with yet. Julian unwrapped the package carefully. Inside was a small tin box, painted with a simple design of mountains and clouds. He opened it and lifted the lid. The scent of aged tea rose up, rich, earthy, comforting. It smells like home, Julian whispered. May's eyes softened. Everyone's definition of home is different. For some, it's a place. For others, it's a person. For me, it's this tea house and the smell of tea and the sound of rain on bamboo. They sat in comfortable silence for the rest of the afternoon. The rain slowed to a drizzle. The clouds parted and a thin strip of sunlight slipped through the window, landing on the wooden table between them. When Julian finally stood to leave, he looked different from when he had arrived. His shoulders were lower, his breathing was steadier, and there was a small smile on his face that hadn't been there before. He put some money on the table, more than the tea cost by a lot. No, May said firmly, this tea house does not charge people who need tea. Ever. But no arguments. Consider it an investment in whatever you're going to do next, in whatever path you're going to find. Julian looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Thank you, May. From the bottom of my heart. He picked up his satchel and walked to the door. Before he left, he turned back. Will I find my way back here? He asked. May pointed to the window. Follow the rain, or follow the bamboo. You can't miss it. Julian stepped out into the alley. The rain had stopped. The stone path was wet and shiny, reflecting the paper lanterns. He walked slowly, his satchel lighter than when he had arrived. May watched him go through the window. Then she turned back to her tea, finished the last sip, and began to clean the cups. The next morning, the sun was bright. Birds sang in the bamboo garden, and on the small table where Julian had sat, May found something she had not noticed the day before. Tucked beneath one of the cups was a small piece of paper. May picked it up and unfolded it. It was a sketch drawn in pencil. It was a drawing of the tea house, but not just any drawing. Julian had captured the warmth of the lanterns, the curve of the bamboo leaves, the gentle slope of the roof. And in the corner, he had written 2 words. "Thank you." May smiled and folded the paper carefully. She placed it in a drawer with a dozen other sketches and notes from people who had visited her tea house over the years. Each one was a reminder that this small place had done its job. It had given someone a moment of peace in a busy world. She went back to work, grinding tea leaves, lighting the stove, preparing for the afternoon customers. The rain had washed everything clean. The air smelled of wet stone and fresh tea and green bamboo. And outside, in the alley, a single paper lantern still glowed faintly in the morning light, waiting for the next traveler who needed to find their way. Good night and sweet dreams.